Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Hang on, I'm going to hit the button there. I hit the button. We are now recording. This is a recording. So I'm sitting here with none other than Tom Gasior. Thomas? Is it Gasior? Do I say it right?
You are saying it correct. I tell people it's like Frazier, like Joe Frazier, the boxer, but with a G.
Okay.
So you are saying it correctly.
Frazier, Gasior.
Yeah. Yep.
When you say it like that, it just slips right off the tongue. Gasior. Rather than pronouncing the vowels, Gasior, it's Gasior.
Correct. Yes.
Wow.
It's actually a Polish name, and it's tough to say in Polish, so I won't repeat it. But
I think this interview's over now that I figured out how to say your name. I don't think there's any.
Good night, folks. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't think there's any point in going on.
All right, we're done. Covered everything important.
So, Tom, the reason I've called this meeting is because recently you received your MMR for people that don't know what that acronym means, because I'm not a huge acronym fan. MMR stands for Master Model Railroader, which you can only get by completing a certain level of excellence, which is conducted by the NMRA through a series of things that they've over the years have a series of, I don't know, what do you call it? A series of rules and regulations, I guess.
Achievements to meet standards in 11 different areas. So 7 of 11.
7 of 11 different areas. So when exactly did you get this award?
I received it this few months ago at our Thousand Lakes Region convention in La Crosse.
Right.
And that was so it was accumulation of many, many years to get to that point, to get to all 7 of them that they wanted.
Do you know when they started the Master Model Railroader program, like in the NMRA? Was that one of the very first things they ever did?
It was, I believe. I believe it started in 1935. And there's probably someone out there who can correct me, but it's been going on
for almost 80 years.
Yeah,
80 so years. You must be like Master Model Railroader 3,492.
Almost. I'm number 635.
So in 85 years. So in 85 years, they've had 635 guys.
Correct.
That's like an average of 4 a year.
That'd probably work out. It has, the interesting fact is, since the advent of our internet, the number has jumped. I think up to the internet being invented by Al Gore at what time? In the mid-90s or something?
Yeah. Al Gore invented it, yeah.
I think there was 330 to 50. And since then to now, there's been another 300. So the internet is helping as a resource, sharing ideas and tools and history and information and getting people the things they need to scratch build or build scenery or help volunteer and do things like that.
Well, if you've ever heard of I don't know if you've ever listened to the podcast. Actually, I think I know you've listened to every one of them, and some of them 3 times.
Yes.
I'm convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that Al Gore invented the internet so that the model railroad hobby would grow exponentially.
I agree with that.
I think the hobby's just going to explode.
Yep, I agree. That was probably the main purpose.
Yeah, I think so. People, they can't mention, how governments are. They can't actually say, because other communities will feel left out. So there's no way that they were going to come out onto the South Lawn or the Rose Garden or wherever it is. They make announcements and, Al Gore and Bill Clinton would be standing there, and today they declare, okay, we're going to start the internet to help the hobby of model railroading, because there would have been all sorts of other groups complaining.
That is correct. I'm sure the dollhouse builders and NASA probably.
Yeah, NASA.
They'd be in line somewhere.
Model railroading has gone head to head with NASA.
Yeah.
So how did you decide to become a master model railroader? What do you remember what it was that made you kind of, want to do such a thing?
It started by wanting to emulate people who were better at the hobby than me, which was pretty much everybody. And I started out, just earning a dispatcher certificate because I like going to other people's layouts and operating. I like dispatching, kind of the controlling thing. And it was kind of funny. One of the first really, really nice layouts I went to, museum quality, I asked the owner, and I said, you modeled this Milwaukee Road from the Wisconsin Dells to Seattle, and everything's perfect. You must be a master model railroader. And he looked at me with disdain and said, well, that's just jumping through hoops. And I'm like, I don't think so. It's got to be something else. So, and I think it really came to life when I moved to my current home and had a basement and started to build my layout. And I thought, well, I want to use best practices. I'm tired of building everything twice or three times. Let me use the NMRA standards for wiring and bench work and building my track and working things like that. And then documenting it, by writing articles and podcasts and Facebook pages helped with other issues. So it was more organic. It helped me become a better modeler.
Right, exactly. And what year would okay? Let's remind everybody, because you have been on the podcast before. You're a locomotive engineer for the Union Pacific.
Yep.
In Minnesota and Minneapolis area.
Yes, that's correct. Twin Cities.
And are you out on the road? Are you a yard guy?
I am now a yard guy. I have enough seniority to hold a daily job and come home after the end of each shift instead of living out of a suitcase for 300 days a year. So now I can do that.
Is that not? Is that not boring just being in the yard, or is that it's not boring because it's not the same thing every day?
I don't think it's boring. It's not the same thing. You have make it simple. You have puzzles to solve. You have people to deal with. The yard I work in has many other trains coming and going that you have to deal with. Their cars, getting out of their way, helping them, and working with this. So it's kind of like everybody else's job. It's personality conflicts, and then there's people you get along with. So
sure, yeah. So it's not boring. It's interesting.
Right. Exactly. That, and you get to see trains and other such things.
Yeah. Can you try to explain to me before we get back onto the MMR thing? Can you try to explain to me, because I'm going to have a podcast too, because I now know 4 locomotive engineers. I know more than that, but you guys have been on the podcast. I know Thomas Gasior, who's in Minneapolis. I know Mike, the Spoon Ostertag, who lives in Green Bay, Wisconsin, home of the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. And Tim Garland, who lives in Georgia, just outside Atlanta. He's with the Norfolk Southern. Spoon is with Canadian National. And I also know a fellow named Adam Pinellas, who right at this moment is a conductor on the California Zephyr with Amtrak, but he has been a locomotive engineer with the Utah Railway, and he's thinking now that he might want to go back in the cab with Amtrak.
Oh, wow.
So I think it'd be an interesting podcast to have you 4 guys talking train stuff.
That would be. We could either swap stories or answer questions if anybody had.
Yeah. Well, let's start the planning right now. Do you ever have any evenings when you're available?
I'm home in the evenings on Fridays and Saturdays.
All right, so that's a good start then. All right, we'll work from there. Okay, so all right, so now I'm interested. I think this is a great opportunity to kind of give people because there's a lot of people are kind of negative about the AP program, and I think a lot of people get discouraged easily. So I thought, you know what, this is a real opportunity here on the old AML podcast to give people a real insight into what is involved, because you're right off the factory floor. You barely got any miles on you as an MMR, so you'll have all the. Did you have to fight with the guy Dennis Ivinson? Did you and him get into some sort of a dust up so that you could get in ahead of him?
If I did, I do not remember it. So
okay.
I've had dust ups, but his name doesn't come up with it. So.
All right. So how many years ago? So you think you sincerely started it when you got the basement in the house you're in now?
Correct.
And how many years ago was that?
Probably around 2005. So,
So
you're looking about 14, 15 years.
yeah, so it took you and did you pretty quickly decide I'm going to try to do this? Like, was it right out of the box? Like you say, you got your dispatcher's certificate. Because what happens is, let's describe to people what happens. You say there's 11 categories, and you need certificates in 7 of those categories.
Correct.
So,
And, you know,
go ahead.
so, but also reading the fine print, which I think the NMRA achievement program is all about. You have to read what they want. There's 11 categories and there's 4 sections. And you have to complete at least a certificate out of each of the 4 sections, whether it's service to the hobby or builder, like cars, locomotive structures, or engineering, electrical, civil, and other things, or things like that. So you have to at least complete one out of each of the 4 areas, along with at least 7 of the other achievement program certificates.
So each of the 11 certificates has 4 different sections, but you only have to complete one section of each area.
You have to complete one certificate achievement out of each area. Like
Oh,
that was like the last one I got. Everybody says the last one was toughest, but I didn't do anything previously till about landscaping. I could have built engines. I was scratch building engines, and I was writing articles and doing these other things. But I realized I needed to do something on landscaping and scenery. So that one, I was almost forced to do that to complete my master model railroader.
all right. So I'm not 100% sure if I'm following. So each one of the 11 categories has 4 sections, and you have to get an achievement certificate in each one of those 4 sections.
Yes and yes. Yep. The
So
there's 4 sections to it, and all 11 categories fall within those 4 sections.
so do you need 28 achievement certificates?
No, you need 7. See if I can figure this out here for you.
Yeah, see if you can figure it out.
Let me look at it. So the categories are broken down into, let's say, service to the hobby, and they'll have author, they'll have volunteer, and they'll have elected official. So they'll want you to do at least one of those to give back to the hobby.
Okay.
And so you have to earn. So like all your articles in MR would count towards author, and if you helped out the local division, you'd get points, and you have to earn so many points in that. But you need at least one of those certificates from that category.
Okay. I think I understand.
Yeah. So they have like model builder of equipment is 1. Settings, which is structure, scenery, and prototype models, is 2. Engineering and operations, which is building your track, wiring your layout, and being a dispatcher, is another. And like I said, service to the hobby, either association volunteer, official, or an author.
Okay, I found it on the NMRA website.
Yeah.
Railroad equipment. There's two different sections you can work on. You can either be a master builder of motive power or a master builder of cars, or do you have to do both of those?
1.
All right. And then railroad setting, it's master builder of structures, master builder of scenery, or a master builder of prototype models.
Yes. And then you need 1 from that area too.
All right. So
Some you'll double up on to get the 7. So whatever your strong suit is.
okay, so you could do. Let me follow along here. So if you took railroad setting, and you did master builder of structures, master builder of scenery, and master builder of prototype models, those would be 3 of your 7.
Absolutely.
But you need 1 in each category, A, B, C, and D.
Correct.
I get it now.
The well-rounded breakfast there,
Yeah, exactly. So what was the first one you did?
The first one was dispatcher. I'm kind of a low-hanging fruit picking guy. and that was working on layouts, drawing up schematics, drawing up a string line diagram of a layout, and then operating and dispatching on other NMRA members' layouts, and they sign for your hours, and that you can do this. So that was the first one that I did.
Right. And then what did you do after that? So then you've got your
After
first
that,
you got your first certificate, and you're thinking, well, maybe I will keep going.
yep, that's when I moved here and I got my basement. Then the next one was electrical because I wanted my layout to run well, and I had a DCC system, and the trains were working, but not so well. And I said, well, let me follow their standards, and I drew diagrams of where all my wires go, and I found blocks that were overlapping, rails that were overlapping, missing feed wires, missing this. And by going to other people's layouts and seeing what they use for protection or short protection, for short lockouts, how they do their blocks, I followed them and then had the achievement program directors come over and, you know, take a look at my layout and make sure it meets the standards.
Right.
So that was an easy one because I wanted to have my layout run, and I wanted
So
to
you
have
wanted to
it
have
run well.
yeah. So now you've got after that you've got 2 in railroad construction and operation.
Yep. And the next one I kind of went back on for volunteering. I was trying to do some things, and I realized that with this program you can go back anytime. You know, you could go back to your model railroading years, your Allegheny
Right.
Road, and things like that. And I remembered back when I was running a print shop, I volunteered to be the newsletter editor in the days where you actually printed them out and mailed them and did all that.
Right.
And so the hours that I did as a newsletter editor for the region counted towards my association volunteer certificate.
Cool. So now you got 3.
Right. And one of the things like you'll notice too, like we were talking about why people don't like this or have trepidation is the judging. And we will have a little discussion on that. So I've earned 3 up to this point where I didn't have to go through somebody judging on a merit system my models.
Right.
It's just whether you do it or not. Basically now it's it's been yes or no, meet or pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like driving instructing. You
Exactly.
pass or fail.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. These ones are more straightforward. You either do it right or you don't do it right.
Correct.
All right.
And then the next one was the tough one was cars. And so you have to make 8 cars and 1 a passenger. You have to scratch build 4. And so I scratch built maintenance away cars because my layout basically only has iron ore cars. I run an iron ore hauling road. So I wanted all the cars that the maintenance guys would use, gondolas and flat cars. And here we go back to the internet. Thank you, Al Gore. I found the Lone Star region in Texas has a wonderful web page. And they put out a step-by-step clinic on how to scratch build a flat car.
Really?
Yeah, it's really kind of nice out of styrene, which is my modeling medium. So I did this, and I turned 2 of them into gondolas and painted and decaled them and brought them to convention. And so I had enough cars to merit, and that's how I earned the next one, which was Master Builder of Cars.
And so let's give everybody a little bit of background about what your railroad is. It's the Split Rock Mining Company.
Correct, yes.
And it's a freelance railroad.
Yes.
And how long were you the Split Rock Mining Company before you moved into the basement?
No. This was downsizing from previous Uber layouts and modeling all kinds of freight roads. I actually modeled the Canadian National in Thunder Bay when I lived in western Wisconsin. But being a railroad engineer, my time was my biggest resource or lack of resources. So I built a smaller railroad and I just had it dedicated to iron ore. So I built a layout that I could run on my own. And if I have a couple buddies over, then they can run too.
Right.
But this is just, I said, I'm going to stick to one thing and do it well.
Okay.
That's my gig.
Yeah. And so, and you've had it's been featured in MRH there about ballasting and stuff.
Yes. Yep. Have my blog there. They've used some of the photos that I posted on there.
Okay, so you have your blog about your railroad is at the MRH.
Correct, and then there's also a Facebook page.
Yes, I found the Facebook page. It's called the Split Rock Mining Company by coincidence.
Yeah, there we go.
What a coincidence! It's almost. Oh, here's I found on the Lone Star region. Man, they've got a ton of clinics on this Lone Star region.
Yeah, they have a really nice website. It would be good to emulate them. They've done a well job. Really well job.
Scratch building freight cars using styrene.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. There you go. So you look at this. So I highly recommend anybody who wanted to learn how to scratch build freight cars using styrene. That's a good place to start at the Lone Star region and click on their clinics link, and away you go. Okay, so now you've gone to the Lone Star region and you clicked on the clinics link and you built a bunch of maintenance away cars for the Split Rock Mining Company. So now you've got, and then you get them judged. So how did the judging go? Were you disappointed? Did you feel like you got some constructive criticism?
I did. I think that's the toughest part of the NMRA that drives everybody crazy is the judging, because it's arbitrary. If anybody's watched the Olympics and seen gymnastics, you know what judging can do. I got really good feedback. I had some positive, constructive criticism, and the thing that I went into, I was not looking to win best of show by any means. To earn a merit on that, you need 87 and a half points out of 124 or something like that. So I said, I want 88 points.
Right.
I'm going to put enough detail and enough weathering and enough decaling and all this stuff to get 88 points, because that's all I needed. I didn't want to make the cover of the Narrow Gauge Gazette or anything like that. So
right.
So I threw myself into it thinking that way, that if I can get 90 points, 90 to 100 points, I'm good. And that's what I earned. One earned quite a bit. I think I missed best in show by a point, but the other ones were adequate enough to merit. And I said, out of the 8 cars you bring, you have to have 4 that earn a merit, and those did.
Or out of the 8 cars, you only need 4 that are merit?
Correct.
This
is probably the most confusing category of all. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Because I like, let's talk about it a bit, because I feel it's an opportunity, because you, like I say, you just got it. It's an opportunity for people to hear about the adventure.
Yes. And the adventure, I think, in this one was deciphering what they wanted. So to earn the Achievement Program Certificate for rolling stock, you need to have 8 pieces of rolling stock judged, okay?
Right.
So that's the base. We need 8. One of the 8 has to be a passenger car. Okay, so we got that. 4 of the cars have to be scratch built.
All right.
4 of the cars have to earn merits.
Right.
So what people get in trouble is then they think, I have to scratch build a passenger car that earns a merit award. No, you don't. Well, all my scratch built cars have to earn merit awards. No, they don't. You could build a lovely kit, a lovely, piece together kit. You could do this or detail something up, a laser kit,
right,
and that earns a merit. So as long as 4 of the cars earn a merit, as long as 4 of the cars meet the scratch built criteria, which is just a percentage, and everything scratch built has to be museum quality. And what they're looking for is scratch built is the number of parts you created versus the number of parts that are in the model total.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If 80% of the car, 90% of something scratch built, you'll qualify.
Right. So if you build a flat car or a box car, and the floor and the frame and the sides and the roof are basically scratch built, and you add the trucks and the brake wheels.
Yep, correct.
You're off to the races.
Correct. Yeah, they don't expect you to scratch build the truck stuff. People have. There's some talented modelers out there.
Yeah.
You know a few.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the confusing part when people ask about that 8 cars, 1's a passenger, 4 scratch built, 4 merit. None of those are attached to each other, if that's the right term.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And what about the passenger car? Like how much of that did you have to build?
Well, I did I think they're called branch line kits.
Right.
Beautiful passenger car kits, and I took that and painted it and added an interior.
Okay.
Just to go above and beyond. I was going to bring it to a contest, and I left the roof off, and I added an interior and painted the floors and put little people in there. And it was a kit given to me by a friend, and so I was building it for him. And I said, "Well, can I use it for this?" And he says, "Yeah." So they're quite involved. Some of those kits. There's a lot of parts, so. That was almost worse than scratch building. So that was the passenger car. And then I built a laser caboose kit, A and B, made some nice little laser caboose. You had trucks, and I bent my own grab irons and so forth.
Right. And what was the name of the company that did the caboose?
American Model Builders, AMB.
Okay, all right, cool.
Got a nice little laser kit there. They make really nice laser kits. And I think another car was a kit bash I did for a local company called Hill Salt Company.
All
I did it
right.
right up in MRH for that. It was really interesting. A salt car, a big like a Canadian cylindrical car.
Yeah.
That a local salt company that does water softener salt. They own two of these, and I see them on the road all the time. And the reason I'm interested in them because the numbers they put on them is number 2 and number 3. You know, they don't have 5 digits or nothing. I'm looking at this car. I'm like, is that really car number 2? It is car
Yeah.
number 2. You know, I said I got to have one of those.
That's cool.
Yeah,
All
it
right.
is cool. It is cool.
It is very cool. I like. I knew this would be interesting. I knew it would be interesting. I should get a podcast and record some of this stuff.
You should. You'd be good at that. You got the voice for it.
All right. So now we got master builder cars. We got electrical. We got chief dispatcher, and we got volunteer.
Correct.
Now what are we gonna do?
Now we're going to work towards their civil. And civil, they want to see your layout planning skills, and also your track building skills. So
Okay.
you need to draw a layout to scale. And this one kind of perplexed me too because I'm not very proficient at CAD drawings or these layout computer drawings.
Right.
So I had to draw a layout to scale by hand, and I found one of these old. You probably remember a little green jig that you would use, and it would have different radius in there and a turntable.
Yeah.
And there I am with my pencil on the kitchen table trying to create the layout. And another thing about this is you have to draw a layout, and then they want you to build part of the layout you draw. So you don't have to build the exact layout you draw. So I used my layout as a basis, and then
Okay.
added in some of the things they wanted. So I model in the diesel era, but one of the things they want to see is a place to turn locomotives, because they invented these, categories back in the steam days. So I just drew in where a turntable would fit. And
Right.
I didn't have to build them, but in the drawing, it showed that I had these. And then they want you to scratch build some track, build some turnouts, and they give you 20 examples of what you can build. You can build a turnout and build a crossover and a double crossover, and you can build, a double slip switch, a gauntlet track, a dual gauge. And thank you to Tim Warris and Fast Tracks, I've become very proficient at scratch building turnouts and stuff.
So this model railroad engineer, can you use fast tracks fixtures to do this?
Yes, and here's how I found out that Fast Tracks, bless their hearts, comes to the NMRA conventions and donates materials and puts on clinics with this modeling with the masters. You can sit down with somebody and they'll show you how to build it. And I was reading about this, and they said most of these turnouts would earn a merit award, if they were hooked to a layout. So then I asked the top guys, and I said, well, why didn't they earn a merit? And they said, well, there's no place to run a train through it. So here's what you need to do is the track you build, the turnouts, whatever you build, has to be built by you, in gauge, and it has to have a train run over under its own power.
Okay.
So, because I was buying all like the detail parts and this and the ballast, and I asked the top guy at the NMRA, and he said, because I said, "What do fast tracks works?" He says, "Yes, as long as you built it, it's in gauge, and you can run a piece of motive power over it under its own power."
Okay.
So I hand built a turnout to a spur. I hand built a 3-way turnout and another turnout, and then made a diamond crossing on a separate sheet of layout foam board, whatever.
Right.
And the judges came over and they liked the drawing, and then I showed them what I did on my layout that include these parts, and then I went to the track part. And we ran the engine all through it. And one of the judges looked at me and goes, "That's fine and dandy, but I can't give it to you. You have no ballast or ties." And it was kind of interesting because then I could pull out a sheet of paper that I got from the head guy at the NMRA that says you don't have to ballast, you don't have to detail it, you don't have to do this, because it's back to that pass fail.
Right.
Correct. If you built something for that, if it's you built it, now commercial parts, it's in gauge, NMRA standard gauge, and you can run power through it, 87.5 points. It's a yes or no thing once again.
Yeah.
It's not somebody saying you didn't add this guardrail or that proper switch throw or the
Well,
Milwaukee Road,
I have a question about that, but I'm going to leave it towards the end because
All right.
I don't want to get off. So now we've done 5.
Yep.
So next, and we've got one in each category now, don't we? With those 5.
No, I don't have one in the last one.
What's the last one?
The
Yeah, fallen. I see.
I don't have one in settings because I haven't built structures and I haven't built prototype models.
All right, now
and I haven't done scenery.
Okay, before we go on, I'm on the NMRA page.
Yep.
I see railroad equipment, railroad settings. Oh, I
settings.
see. So you haven't done any of that. But you said you did scenery.
Well, that was last.
Oh, that's right. So we're still at number 5.
Yeah, we're
all
at
right.
5.
So what was number 6?
Well, 6 was author, and you get so many points for writing articles for your division, for your region, for the national mag, or for other national magazines.
Okay.
So I started writing as many articles as I could for the region and this and that, which editors just love. Hey, I finally got somebody doing this, and I always recommend it. And you can include photos to get points. But I noticed I'm in the operations SIG, which is an NMRA special interest group, and they were looking for articles. And I said, well, here's some photos I can write up about the split rock mining. And the guy says, sure, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And there was 20 pages in a national magazine with photos and the cover photo. And so I'm like, okay, there's author. Cha-ching.
Beauty.
Yeah, beauty, eh? So,
beauty. Kick-saving a beauty.
It is on Canada Day here. So
yeah, on Canada Day. Yeah, we're doing this. We're actually recording this on Canada Day.
Best day there is.
This is actually July 1st, 2019, and it's Canada Day. I've had my flag out for a couple of days on the house. I'm dressed in red and white.
Very nice.
I've been downtown to knock back a couple of wobbly pops with the boys, and now here I am talking to you.
Yep, and I've been watching Second City Television and Johnny LaRue. So
yeah. And Earl Cannonbear.
Earl Cannonbear, yes. Tex and Edna's.
Yeah. Oh, my secretary Barb does the best Edna.
Oh.
She does such a great impression of Edna. It's like I'm going to have her do a commercial for the
You should.
Yeah.
You should. Lionel and Edna's organ.
Yeah. That's pretty. All right, so we did author. Now we got the last one.
Correct. And it was kind of interesting. So I looked at this. Okay, I need to do something in this. And I didn't want to do all the structures because I want to save those for last. One of the things about this, too, I wanted to enjoy the process. I didn't go through it just to go through it because you get burned out.
Yeah.
And I recommend that the people do it organically as you build your layout. Take pictures and have somebody over. So I started in on the scenery, but one of the things hit me was at this time, my father-in-law, I call him my dad, who was living with us, and a great inspiration. He loved the trains. He'd drag everybody down to see my trains. So
cool.
Anybody who came to fix the washing machine got a tour of the trains. But he got diagnosed with cancer. And, like I said, we did in-home hospice and stuff. So that set that back almost a year, which is fine.
Sure.
Which is fine. Like I said, at the one point, it's like, okay, if I do this, I could be number 600. Then I didn't care. Family comes first. You understand?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So then I thought, well, I'll delay it and I can become number 666. But I said, no, don't do that. So
yeah.
I started doing the scenery and I'd never done it. So I'm looking up every tree building article. I'm talking to my friends, how do you do this? And I learned about super trees. And I even scratch built a willow tree, and I'd never done water. So I'm looking up all the water products and YouTube and watching reviews and asking everybody, what do you use? What did you do? And I'm making miniature birds and eagles and 3D printed turtles and trying to do as much as I can, backdrops and lighting, learned about LED lighting. So that was a real change, and that kind of changed my layout quite a bit from the Plywood Pacific to actually the North Woods where I'm trying to represent.
And what's the overall size of the layout?
Probably, I'd say 11 feet wide and about 16 feet long, double deck.
That's perfect size. That's
it's perfect size. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. And so, all right, so now you've got and as you've been going along, you've been getting what do they call them when you get, what is it called? The Achievement Award.
Yep, the Achievement Program Certificate. that you're
Yes.
a.
Yeah, so you get a certificate for each one of these things that you achieve,
Yep.
which,
Yes. And
which is,
you can also earn a quick one called the Gold Spike if you're just starting your layout. It's kind of a good intro.
yeah, yeah, that's right. They don't talk enough about the gold spike because that's a
No,
good way for people to get some sort of reward for what they've done.
exactly. Exactly. It is. Even just starting out, just having a layout, having cars and doing this is like, okay, here's how you have someone come over and look at your stuff.
Okay, so let's attack this problem. Minneapolis has a pretty robust model railroad community, does it not?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that really bothers people is the judging of of things and criticizing of things, and it's like, is it is there a way around? Like, can you? I guess you have to have somebody local to see your stuff. Do you?
Yes, yes. I have a couple of go-to people that the NMRA trusts that I trust, and in our regional AP chair is an amazing modeler. He's a master moderator, and he kind of set me on the tone. A lot of things I'd bring to him some structure, and he'd say, "No, this isn't merit worthy."
Okay.
And it's one of those things that you can either, okay, I got to strive to get better. What is a merit worthy? And, if I brought him a structure, and I'm like, okay, well, I have to add interior in this. I have to paint it better after this. So it's either a way to improve, or you turn sour and go the other way. Yeah, the judging, I would say, is the toughest part, and it's so tough to find judges,
Yeah.
and it's so tough to find the people with the right touch and the right skills to tell somebody no, and here's why.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
And
that's
and I
that's the key. Is it's not that you haven't. It's not that you're. It's not that you're not good enough. It's that you haven't achieved that level yet.
correct, correct, and that's what I try and tell people. I'm like, okay, well, look at it this way. So the next time you bring something back to be judged, you'll have painted better. You won't have fingerprints in it. Your decals will be straight. Everything will be the right height. It kind of forces you to become better. It doesn't force you to be, the ultimate modeler. We all, you and I both look up to like Lex Parker. The guy just
Absolutely. Yeah.
builds museum quality stuff. It's
Yeah.
fabulous. And so yeah, the judging is tough. I was a shadow judge, and I at one of the contest rooms, and I listened to the judges talk, and we looked at this, and I'd scored. And it's very arbitrary. I think if you and I and we got four other AML listeners together, and you set down an engine or a car or a structure, and you told everybody, okay, give this a number from 1 to 100, and we wrote it on a sheet of paper, there's no way any of us would have the same number.
Yeah.
But would we be close? Based on what you model or what you do, maybe, on your years in the hobby or what you've built and what you've done.
Do the judges have some sort of guidelines to go by?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They have, actually, the NMRA's got it down to point matrices. So you look at construction, you look at prototype, you look at level of detail, you look at things. And that's one of the things that I learned by being a shadow judge is I learned at what they look at.
Right.
So if you built, an Allegheny coal car and you entered it and it was all scratch built and beautiful, you would get more points though. Like say if you drew up your own plans, if you walked out there in the coal fields of West Virginia and go, oh, look at this triple hopper and got a ruler out.
Right.
And then you drew up some crude plans and you built from that, that's going to earn you more points.
Okay.
And I think that's part of the game that some people, I don't want to call it a game, but it's part of the system where I wish people would explain it. Maybe that'll be my job going forward here is how do I get more points? And I think the judges are kind enough too, where, that I've talked to master model railroaders who judge us and they say, if you and I put a car in there, there's no way we're going to get 86 points. We're either going to pass or fail at that time. I think if you need 87 and a half points, you're going to get 75 or lower or 90 and above. Because
Right.
if you added up all the points and like, well, I got 85, and then let's go back and look at it. Let's go back and look at Lionel's hopper. Let's look at Tom's ore car.
Right.
Okay, that's pretty good. He did add this, and give him 3 more points. There's a lot of human factors in that where you only got 86 points. Better luck next time. That doesn't happen. If it does, it's sad.
Yeah, like I think I really want to make a point of getting the point. I really want to get the point across that you had an enjoyable experience doing this.
Correct.
Like,
Correct.
like even though it was somewhat difficult and it took you 14 years roughly, you enjoyed the process of, okay, I don't know how to do this, so if I try to become an MMR and I improve my skills to be good enough to get the awards and the achievement, the what are they called again?
Achievement program certificates.
Yeah, the AP certificates. Um, if I work in that direction or in that under that fashion, then two things will happen. I'll end up with a better layout, and eventually I'll end up as an MMR.
Correct. Correct. You'll end up better on both ways, and you're sharing. Like I said, you're writing stories.
And okay, and let me ask you a question, and try to give me as honest an answer as you can. Like, at any point, did you kind of go in the process? Did you kind of go, "This is pointless. I'm not going to do this anymore. They're too hard on me, or they're too hard. It's too hard to do." Like, did you get discouraged at any point?
I think I got discouraged at the speed because I knew I wanted the items to be judged at a convention, that like the models,
Right.
the cars and stuff. I wanted those at a convention because I wanted everybody to see, and I wanted more than one person to look at them, and I wanted more than the local guy to look at it. And like I said, it's I just started enjoying the process, and I started reaping the benefits. So yeah, there were some disappointing things in there that, well, I could have done that better. Does this count? And I do a lot of work and then realize that doesn't count.
Right.
I scratch building part of a bridge, and somebody else would make the other part, and they'd say, no, that doesn't count. I'm kind of, huh.
Yeah.
So, and the judging, the story I told at the convention, it's a real quick one. When I went to my first NMRA convention, and I saw they had contests, and I loved building diesels at the time, kit bashing and manning detail parts, and I saw they had, bring your engines, and I think, okay, I got this down. I got my Ather F unit. I had the Walters kit. I had everything else, every detail part I can. I put 5 horns on that thing and 4 bells, and I brought it in there.
Right.
And I left it in the convention room, and I went out to the convention, went to clinics and tours and stuff, and I came back, and there's my model and the judging sheet with a whopping 39 points.
Right.
And the kind judges came over to me, and they go, do you have any questions? I said, do you not see the 5 horns on here? Come on, I should get a point. But they were kind of kind, and they showed me, the drips and the airs and the fingerprints and the bad decals and ways to improve. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. You want craftsmanship, not craftiness, and I think that was the lesson, to come back stronger.
Yeah. I really enjoy. When I saw that you got your MMR, I've really enjoyed the process. Kind of like, I guess we became friends or acquaintances maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, and it's like I've kind of enjoyed watching the journey itself. I'm not sure. Like, I mean, I probably could have 5 certificates if I'd taken the time to have the stuff judged, but because I certainly, but yeah, I've enjoyed that, and I like your positivity towards the NMRA and the process, because I think that if you're prepared to, like I'm an NMRA fan. I get very frustrated by the bureaucracy.
Yes.
But I'm very much a fan of what the NMRA has created, and I think the fact that you've taken on this task, you haven't considered yourself to be an expert modeler when you started, and you used the AP program or the MMR program as an opportunity to teach yourself how to get better. I think that's what it was originally intended for.
I agree with you 100% on that. I think it was. It's, if you're going to make something and create something, let us show you, here's the standards. And I think that's what everybody forgets. The NMRA is basically originally, therefore it still is a standard setting organization. It's not a judging or build up the hobby or get more people. It's there to hold hey, you want to build structures. Here's the standard to make a really nice structure and make really nice scenery, or to write articles and things like that.
Yeah, and on the achievement program part of the NMRA website, there's a link to what's called the Masters articles, and there's a ton of articles here about there's a ton of articles here for helping you understand how to do certain things to become a master model railroader. So I highly recommend anybody that's thinking about it to go to that part of the page too, because that's super cool. So now I have a couple of questions. Does the AP program have a Facebook page?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do, and that's where you can get a lot of real-time answers from MMRs and other people going through the system, and from judges.
So
And
let's see if I can find it. What's it called?
it's called, should be the NMRA uh, Achievement Program page.
Oh, sure. Yeah, give me a big word to say. Yeah, come on. You've never listened to the podcast if you're giving me
Yeah, I
words.
know that's a lot of syllables.
Yeah, that's
So
a lot. Yeah, here it is. I found it. Yeah, so it's the
okay,
NMRA Achievement Program, and it's a public group. So
correct.
so you don't need to ask to join. And let's see, they got a There's a ton. Here's something that was just posted a little like 18 hours ago. A guy with a bunch of questions and a bunch of answers for his questions too. That seems.
Yes,
I'm scrolling through it now. There seems to be lots of people that like to get on there and help. It's a real. It's a page where there are a lot of really quality interaction is happening.
there is, and you know, buyer beware. If you ask a question and someone gives an answer, you might want to back it up and see who is giving the answer, and why.
Right.
Like anything else, when you ask the internet a question, you kind of get some different answers. But it is nice that people from national and other things, I'll say, lurk on that page, and every now and then they'll come down with a ruling that this is what we're looking for. This is what it says. This is what you have to do.
Okay. So if the person somebody from this decides they're going to try MMR and they're getting stuck, where would you recommend that they go if they need to have some questions answered?
The definitive answers come from Frank Koch, Koch. I don't know how to say his last name. I think it's like the Koch, but he is the head of the AP program, and his answers are definitive and will go down to regional and division APs. If you're in the NMRA, find your regional AP chairman and find other MMRs in your region, hopefully that can answer your questions. Like we talked about rolling stock, that was never ending.
Yeah. So then, if you feel like in your region the interpretation of the rules isn't exactly what you thought they'd be, then this Frank Koch is the fellow to get a hold of.
Correct.
I think
And he's the one that led me on to the fast tracks rule, that the turnouts don't have to be judged. Your hand built track, gauntlet track, whatever, does not have to be judged on its looks. That's not what it's about at all.
right. It's about whether it works or not.
Whether it works or not, and
Yeah.
whether you built it and works. So
Right here on the NMRA page, AP staff, the very first person, NMRA Achievement Program staff roster, Department General Manager Frank Koch, and it gives his address and it gives his phone number and his email address. So Frank must be Frank. I've heard a lot of good things about Frank. Frank makes himself very available to modelers to try to help them.
he does. He's stepped up a lot of times, and he's very straightforward with his answers, and tries to tell everyone the program is pretty straightforward. Like I said, there's a lot of pass fail, a lot of yes no in it.
So if you have it,
Everything isn't judged to the last rivet.
so if you're not sure the way the rules are being interpreted, you just look for Frank Koch on NMRA, and that problem is solved.
Yes.
Do you think some of the rules for the AP program? I've heard discussion that some of the rules are kind of antiquated and they kind of need to update the.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah, like what kind of things are antiquated? Like turntable, like you need a turntable kind of thing, or what?
Yeah, turntables, a lot of overhead wiring, a lot of lighting. One of the things they used to try and stress or give you extra points for was like lighting in your cars and your buildings and things. There was a lot of DCC solved a lot of problems for all these little electronic things that they wanted to do. You used to have to show off your block controllers. Look, I can run 6 throttles, and there's a big knob from Radio Shack, and you dial in whatever
Yeah,
number, color, and all the wires. And so, yeah, there could be more. They actually added the prototype modeling one, and I think they could probably add one or two more areas.
yeah.
But
And go ahead.
yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it should be looked at. It should be, let's change this to this. Let's make like I said, the fast tracks type turnout or home built turnouts something
Yeah,
more explanatory. Let's say this is what you can do. This is what you can't do.
yeah. Because I mean, fast tracks is pretty cool when you think about it. In one way, yeah, it's kind of a kit, but in another way, if you got to learn how to do a fast tracks turnout to get it to work.
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
really more of a guide to how to make handmade turnouts.
Yes.
And everybody,
And it is a tool. It is a tool, and I think too some people are starting to look at laser cutters and CAD drawings and 3D printing as like, well, that's not really modeling. And for now, the NMRA looks at it where if you drew up the plans for that hopper and you had the machine, Lionel, and you push the start button, then you made it.
yeah,
They're viewing the laser cutters, fast tracks, fixtures, the 3D printer as a tool. It's an X-Acto knife. It's a modern
yeah.
X-Acto knife.
It's a modern X-Acto knife. Yeah,
You still have to master the tool, and I think that's what they're looking for, and I think that has to go forward.
yeah,
But there
exactly.
are some advantages to it. Is a resin printed flat car scratch built? I don't know. I'm sure somebody's going to make that call
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
3D
yeah,
print an entire car out.
yeah. So now you mentioned YouTube channels.
Yes,
Did you get a lot of help from YouTube channels?
I did, and I didn't. I learned uh, a lot of scenery techniques that I didn't do before. I learned a lot of wiring techniques and lighting, how to use LED. And of course, I learned about track building and different tricks on doing that.
And
And
well, do you have favorite? Do you have favorite YouTube channels that you go to?
uh, yeah, some they're so varied because
Yeah,
everybody kind of hits their little niche.
yeah,
And I'll see if I can repeat some of these
yeah. Go ahead.
without a song. But the weathering ones are just phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
What some people are doing.
that's that's a whole new part of the hobby. That's just
That that's a hobby unto itself.
I know people
You
have
know,
just gone crazy with that.
yeah. I'm amazed at how many British modelers are on YouTube, and they show off, their smaller layouts and what they can do and
Yeah.
things like that.
Well, the hobby's just. I'm convinced. I know I've said it 1,000 bazillion times, but I'll say it another 1,000 bazillion times. Like the internet is going to make this hobby just explode. Because before, people that would have been shut out, younger people or women that wanted to be part of the hobby, they don't have to go find a club that will accept them anymore. Now you can find people on the internet that will accept you for who you are, which just makes the hobby grow, and it brings people into the hobby. Then more and more. Like I have more friends now than I ever had in the hobby, and
Exactly. Yeah.
you know it's just it's spectacular. The hobby now is spectacular the way it is with the internet. I mean, look what you and I are doing, and it's just,
Yeah. It's
it's
limitless. It's
yeah.
limitless.
All right.
Especially like you said, if I look at it as if you lived in an area, unlike yours and I's, we have access, to Toronto and the Twin Cities and Kansas City. If you live out in a rural area and somebody's posting on their Facebook and somebody's posting on their YouTube. Well, that's what I'm trying to see. How do I make this and this? Oh, there's a guy in Texas. There's a guy in New York. There's a guy in Dubai building this.
Yeah.
You get it. It's the internet has just made everything smaller.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing. People, I think this podcast has been down. There's 190 some odd countries in the world. And we've been downloaded, I think, in 110 of them or something. It's just, there are model railroaders all around the world.
It's wild. It's wild to think about when you see some people building track work in Indonesia, in New Zealand, and Australia. And like, wow, that's some super modeling. Where's that guy from? And I like the best part too is when YouTube, somebody makes a video. Here's Lionel. Here's how I made a podcast. I can type on YouTube in a comment. Well, how did you get this? How did you form a feed?
Yeah.
How do you edit? What's your favorite editing program? And you get answers. As long as you're not a jerk or that guy, you will. I've always gotten real civil answers back. I give people a compliment. Hey, I like Lionel. Hey, I like how you do this editing. What software do you use? If you could tell me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was talking to Timothy Harrison the other day, and he had some questions, and I was like, sure, whatever you need to know, just let me know, and away we go. And all right, you still haven't given me a YouTube example. You must have.
One of the better ones is they're called TSG Multimedia.
Yeah.
And it's these two guys. One's a really good model builder, and the other one is a really good video editor. And they do rail fanning builds, and they do detail builds, and they go visit layouts. And they have high quality video, high quality sound. They call it a video podcast. I haven't figured that out, but TSG Multimedia is one I would check out.
All right, cool.
I like the one Saginaw Terminals. There's a guy building a smaller layout, and he's just building it like a Michigan sugar beet factory. That's his entire layout. Yeah, but he's got some creative magnet uses and some creative switching and things that I've talked with him and so forth. And
I've talked to our young gun, Shane, the young gun Mason, and I think smaller layouts will become more in vogue now because you can share what you've done with your compadres. Compadres.
There it is.
On just go online and say, hey guys, look what I've done, and you can have a camera and show people what you've done. And so I mean. Like Chris Brimley, who's the he's the vice president of ExactRail. I mean, he's got a beautiful 1 foot by 7 foot N scale layout that was just recently on the cover of RMC. So I think small layouts will have more of an opportunity to flourish now too because of the internet.
Well, let me ask you this, because there's a really ongoing discussion of that in one of the forums I read about. They're calling it the Texas syndrome, and the print magazines always used to try and feature bigger is better.
Right.
And why would I show his little 1x7 layout when I could get this 30x40, Erie Lackawanna layout? And I'm like, but I'm with you. I think the smaller layouts, the ones that people can do well, will become more and more in vogue.
Yeah.
And more manageable, time-wise, money-wise, product-wise.
Yeah, like you could have a 2 foot by 10 foot HO scale layout and a couple of locomotives with those fancy decoders that do all sorts of things.
Yes.
And some beautiful cars and some beautiful laser cut structures, and end up with just an absolutely gorgeous layout.
Absolutely. I can't agree more. That's what I think I would do. You notice the evolution of the hobby. If you're smart enough to look and see what I call the masters of the hobby have done, they've all downsized.
Yeah.
For one reason or another, but it hasn't downsized their craftsmanship or anything they're doing. I drink Lance Mindheim's Kool-Aid. His little simple layout. I think he does phenomenal on these smaller layouts, and go down and run your layout. He's one that I like. And you look at like Luke Towen building these little dioramas to practice his things, and I'm like, look what you can do in like a 2 foot by 3 foot diorama.
And
then eventually puts a train in there.
We interviewed a fella, Tom Klomoski, not that long ago, and he had a layout that was like, I think 10 by 14 or something like that. But I mean, he loved it, and it was done. It was, it was detailed and finished, basically finished, and he was having a ball just making it better.
Correct. Yeah.
You don't need 40 locomotives, And then, of course, you got the other side of the scale, like Tom Jacobs and Mike Deverell, who are building the big layouts, and you stand in awe of those guys because it's cool that they're doing that.
I do. There's some really, really big layouts around here. I'd never do that, but I admire that they do, and I'm glad they invite me over. And I think maybe that's where I get my fix of running a longer train or having a longer run or something, by being in an area like you said is model railroad concentrated. You can do that, but no, I stand in awe of Mike Deverell and the gentleman building that Reading short line. I'm just like, wow,
Yeah, that's
that's
Tom
a whole
Jake.
project. Tom Jacobs, yeah, fabulous.
All right. I'm just going to scroll through your Facebook page, ask you. I love you've done some videos yourself.
Yes,
and how do you enjoy doing that? Because it seems like you're enjoying it.
I do. I like coming up with a plot and thinking it through, and I try and look at it like, what would I want to watch? And that's where I think some model railroading YouTubers kind of fail at. You're not making anything anybody wants. I think that they all have ideals to come out with something every week, and so the first 5 minutes is an apology that they're late to come out. And then the next 5 minutes they talk about what they're going to do, and finally the last 2 minutes, like, okay, there's the York car, ta-da!
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
no.
Yeah. Get to the point.
Get to the point, and that's because that's why I'm like, okay, what do you do when you go to the movies? You go to see James Bond or this. The opening scene grabs you, Then they kind of go through then they kind of go back to the credits and who's in it. Then you start out with the plot. But I'm like, do that on YouTube. Get a run by, get a train going. What am I going to see in this? Oh, okay.
And so when did you start doing the videos? You've got almost 1,000 subscribers now.
Yes, I wasn't in it for the subscribers. I just kind of.
And do you find the same thing that a lot of other people find, that you get a lot of? That's the one thing that my friend, maybe Ron Marsh, he started doing videos mostly to connect with people.
Correct. Yeah.
And now he's got like almost 20,000 subscribers, and he's got a regular thing going. But one of the things he enjoys about the videos is the amount of interaction he has with people that comment.
Right, and you get some wonderful comments. You get some ones that are completely off the wall. You're kind of like, okay, what's going on here? But at least you can go back and go, okay, thank you, but what do you want to know? I'll give you an answer. I didn't quite understand.
Yeah.
This, and the ones I get the most views on are operations. I still think in this day and age, people are still mystified or I don't want to use the term scared, but they're like, I don't know how to do that. I'll come over and watch. I don't want to throttle. I'm like, no, that doesn't happen. Here's a throttle.
Yeah. People love operations.
Yes, yeah.
Like, I mean, you got one here from 3 years ago. That's 26,000 views. Yard and dock operations.
Yeah.
26,000 views.
Isn't that kind of wild?
That
blows my mind. I'm like, okay.
That's the thing, eh? I mean, it's like the podcast now. We're closing in on 500,000 downloads, and you're thinking to yourself, well, why does anybody want to listen to me? But they don't. They want to listen to you. So I just happen to ask the questions. So yeah, no, but this is the kind of stuff. What we've done today is really, really interesting. I mean, we've covered the game. Now, you haven't done a video. Just you did one 2 months ago, and you had a bit of a lull in there. How come?
Right. Well, that was, like I said, going through a lot of changes on the road, geopolitical things at home, dealing with the father and dealing with the wife and all the fallout. And I really didn't have anything to add until I finished the scenery. The layout wasn't running. And I think that's one of the things when you're building scenery, the layout just kind of gets destroyed because there's, plaster and foam and this and tree making and this is over there. So I wanted to do that as soon as I got the scenery done. I'm like, okay, I got to do this because everybody's asking me, what are the little balls on my ore cars for?
Yeah, I like that.
That's the number one question everybody asks. What are those balls? I'm like, oh my gosh, I better make a video. And
so how many locomotives do you have?
Right now, I have probably 11. I need 10 for an operating session. That's all. I've got some more in the works. I'm a typical model roader. I always want to have more, but
yeah. And what
I
DC?
think I only need 7. I use 7 per session. That's all
Wow.
I need is
So
7.
you don't use a ton. You don't have. You're not one
No,
of these guys with like 80 locomotives when you only need 9.
no, I'm not a. I've remitted my uh, ID card to the Blue Tub Modelers. I kind of cleaned that out. So I so let me I just need, this is what I need. I need 7 8 engines, and I'm good. Change
um.
it up.
So what DCC system do you use?
I use Digitrax because that's when I started. That's what everybody has, and I always I call it the Chevrolet of Digitrax. There's some better ones and there's some worse ones, and it's just one of I think DCC. You probably hit this point is you buy what your friends buy,
Yeah.
and that's the road I've gone down, and that's what the local hobby shop sells. So the Twin Cities, and it's kind of interesting to go to other layouts. Oh, okay, you have this. Let me try that. Oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
Oh, this NC is nice. Okay, this is what I said. Would you buy it again? That's
Yeah.
always my question. If I know somebody who has a car or a Harley or something, I'm like, do you like it? Would you buy that again?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Uh, yeah. I'm a big NCE fan. I don't
Yes.
hide that. A huge NCE fan, and of course, NCE is the official sponsor of the Modeler's Life podcast. Now, we've sent several invoices to Jim Scores, the owner of the company, and he's yet to respond.
Wow.
But
All the airtime you're giving him.
yeah,
Come on.
yeah. So there's some, his defense, which I find to be weak. His defense is he never asked to be the official sponsor.
What?
There was never any discussions about it. There was never, and I said, well, sure, but I just picked you, and now you should, pony up some dough.
I think so. I
And
think so.
he's just struggling with that.
Wow.
Although he did show up and become a Patreon member, so you got to give him credit for that.
There's that. Yeah,
Um,
some local layouts have NCE, and the Fremo group I have uses it, and it's fabulous. It's it's
what?
wonderful. And in the Twin Cities, everybody's using everything down to their tablets and
Yeah. I know
Wi-Fi now, and
it gets more and more exciting by the day. Really,
it does.
it really is. I think this hobby is just hasn't even. I don't think we have any idea where we're headed. I really don't, because you don't need Gone are the days where you need to build the 30 by 30 foot layout. You can build something really cool in a bedroom. You can build something really cool on a 2 by 10 shelf. You can have tons and tons of fun just taking a locomotive, putting a decoder in it, and getting it to do everything but change, make the dinner. I mean, there is the weathering. These guys, like you say, it's a whole new part of the hobby where guys are weathering. There is just what's happened is there are so many things that have expanded and become, some of the segments are just it's like a chia pet. We've added water to it, and the thing's just gone boom. All
I
right.
like that.
I have. Oh yeah. So I got a couple more questions, and then I'll let you go. And we should mention that you've had a sore throat the whole time.
I'm working on it here. It's all good.
All right, and you got the sore throat because you've been swimming with your grandkids.
Correct. Yes, it's been cabin weekend here.
All right, you have
our 2 weeks of summer in the North Country.
Oh, okay, yeah. Do you have a pool?
No, we don't. But up at the cabin, the little like association, they have a pool and a lodge and this and that.
Oh, okay.
Right next to the lake, and the kids just love that, and it helps wear them out, gets them to sleep.
Where's the cabin?
Up middle of Minnesota. There's a town called St. Cloud. It's west of there.
All right.
It's on what we call it like a chain of lakes. So if you get in the pontoon, you can go to about 12 or 15 lakes. They're all connected. And
wow, that's cool.
it is cool. Yeah.
Do you have a pontoon boat?
I have access to one.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
That's all I need.
Exactly. And your Union Pacific. What kind of locomotive are you operating right now?
This week was SD 40-2s, some rebuilt ones.
What are they like for using for yard operations?
I like them. They're very comfortable. They ride well. They pull enough. I deal with a lot of chemical industry, so heavy tank cars.
Right.
And sometimes I'll get a GP38, and they're a little slippery.
Okay. So
And,
the 6-axle seems to work a little bit better.
I do. I like the 6-axle ones. I know they're gonna get me where I need to go.
Do you ever do you think that today's modern diesel will ever be like we'll ever get to the point of the SD40 where it's like, okay, the GEVOs are what we're using for switching now, because they just seem so big.
They do. I don't think so with with just the cab layout.
Yeah.
It's tough to stick your head out and run the engine and do this and that. I don't know what they're going to do. Somebody's going to have to manufacture a new GP38,
Yeah.
a non-turbocharged, some type of switching engine that isn't, those battery ones that are kind of neat, but they're not heavy enough. They're not
Yeah.
built for flat switching operations.
All right.
You know.
I was going to ask you another question. I forget what it was. That couldn't have been that good. So I do want to say, so you talked about the podcast during your acceptance speech at the convention.
Yes.
How cool was that?
Yeah, I mentioned that when we talked about the Kelly questions, and I still believe it to this day, and I'll always say it that the most valuable thing I can give to anybody starting in this hobby or middle or trying to learn is my time.
Right.
And that's the most valuable thing I get from somebody else. If they want to bequeath me a Allegheny car or something like this, I go, that's neat, but I'd rather spend some time with you and learn how you did this or what you're doing or what you're up to and
Yeah.
how did you take these photos. That's what I enjoy. It's the same thing you do, how you talk to somebody. I'm like, I want your time.
Yeah.
How did you make this, hey, Shane, how did you make this engine run so smooth? Bruce answered a lot of questions. Bruce the mailboy was invaluable to me.
Right.
Answering a lot of NMRA questions, being an honorary life member. I'm like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
And their time is just so much more valuable than any tool or car or something.
Bruce the moderately agitated mailboy.
Moderately. Depends on the day.
Yeah, what do you think about Kelly? Kelly's pretty much just a load, eh?
I think so. Which Kelly are we talking about here?
We're talking about Bruce Kelly. Bruce Kelly out there in Medford, Oregon. He's the
guy who invented them, yes.
Yeah, the guy who's the president of every model railroad club within 102 miles of Medford, Oregon.
Wow.
Just basically a load, that guy.
He'd get his volunteer certificate in a week.
I know, exactly. Speaking of loads, how about Ostertag?
Spoon, I finally got to meet him. I've seen him a couple of times.
Oh, okay. And
he's a fun gentleman. He
is a fun gentleman.
I think between him and I and 10 other guys, we could probably keep up with Gordy in the drinking department. But I don't know.
Now, there's a guy that's NMRA through and through.
Yes.
The NMRA needs the NMRA needs to survive.
Yes.
We need to figure out a way for it to survive, because it's not going to continue to survive with this crazy bureaucracy and these crazy, their crazy dues and the way they operate. We need to get these guys to lighten up and embrace the new world, and then it will survive greatly.
I agree. And they're trying to embrace the internet and age, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but I'm helping work with some people to make a better website for the NMRA, something that people would want to go to. We all get on the internet every day, and there's 5,500 million pages, and we all go to the same 5.
Yeah.
And we go to the NMRA page when you want to find out, well, what do I need for that Master Builder car certificate? Okay, now I'll go back to the Lone Star page or go to this. So that's part of the issues that are coming forward is how do you create an organization that people want to go to.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Exactly. What do you think of this idea? I know this is a way out idea, and I have no problem with you opposing this idea, but it seems to me that if there was some sort of a membership that was like 1995 and you were a member of the NMRA, you didn't get nothing necessarily for it other than you were a member of the NMRA, you got your membership card, you had access to the website. I think then you could pretty much say to everybody on the planet that's a model railroader, come on over here, throw your $20 in. This is the umbrella we all live under. And
yeah.
That's where I think the direction is. That's how we would build the population of the NMRA up again.
It might be. It's something else. I've always said the two things about the NMRA is, one, I call it a gym membership, but the other thing is you pay to be a member of a volunteer group. And I know that you were in the Lions, or you're still in the Lions, or
Right, yeah.
and I was a JC, till I aged out. And if you join the JCs, the Lions, the Kiwanis, the Moose, the Elks, Knights of Columbus, you're paying dues to join a volunteer organization, which is the NMRA. You're paying dues to join a group that's made up of volunteers.
Yeah.
When you do that, you become an owner. And that's why it's kind of tough on me when I see people, not like you, because you want to change it. Let's do this for the better. Let's do this. But when other people just want to complain, I'm like, you own this. You
Yeah.
change this.
Yeah.
If this is what you want to do, if you think this is bad, help us fix it. Because you own the NMRA. You're a part owner. It's like Ostertag. Here's your piece of stock to the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
The NMRA is owned by its members. And I would like to see some type of $20, $19.99, buy it now, we'll throw in this, today. But because one of the things I learned was this: if you're not a member and you go to an NMRA meeting, you're allowed to go to 3 before you're joining. And I always thought, oh, there's an arm twisting thing.
Yeah.
And what I learned is not the arm twisting; it's insurance. That if something happens, you can't have 50 non-members there, and something happens at the meeting, you're just not insured for them.
Right. Yeah.
And I've tried to get the people like, oh, okay, now I get it, because they thought like, oh, what do you mean I can only come to 3 meetings? I'm like, no, we're not twisting your arm. It's protecting the investment we made in the group we own.
Well, sure, and I think your Lions analogy or JC's analogy is perfect. I mean, you're paying to be a volunteer.
You're paying to be a volunteer, so you own it.
Yeah, so the NMRA just needs to work on being more inclusive of it. And I think, like, if you look at the Australian version of the NMRA, they are so on the internet and so tuned into the new technology. I think if we could just get the NMRA tuned into the new technology and embrace it at as full speed, I think they'd see a difference there.
Yes, and that's what's happening. That's behind the scenes, and there's some people involved that are trying to do that. That how do we take advantage of this new technology? Not new, but new to the NMRA. How do you take advantage of Facebook? How do you take advantage of the website? How do you take advantage of a lesser dues structure?
Yeah.
If money's what's keeping you out, if that's what's keeping you out, let us know. That's the thing. Okay, what is, I would love to ask people, one, why they leave.
Yep.
Why won't you renew? And 2 is that you've come to all these things, why won't you join? And I don't think money's on the list a higher percentage. I think it's a lot of preconceived notions that it's a clique, it's the rivet counters, it's the know-it-alls, it's the, I don't want to go any place where I'm judged. My stuff doesn't have, I'm like, there's none of that,
Yeah. Exactly.
And so I think it's a tougher sell socially than money-wise. But I agree, it's everybody's pocketbook. It's like, okay, I have a choice. I vote with my wallet and I vote with my feet. If I don't like a restaurant, I'm not going to badmouth them. I'm just not coming back.
Yeah. That's pretty
Well,
much it, isn't it?
yeah. I'll vote with my feet. I'm not coming back.
Well, you know what? One other thing I want to talk to you about is you sent some magazines to Ray. I think it's Ray Stewart is his name.
I think so.
Yeah. And you just did that, and I thought that was so cool. And he put a picture of that up on our website or our Facebook page, and I thought that was so cool that you thought to do that.
Yeah, my wife and I have been doing that and trying to do it to soldiers overseas. I was in the Marine Corps, so I knew kind of what it's like, and we usually send it to like any Marine, any of this, and somebody will post, hey, we'd like this stuff and this stuff and this stuff, and we'll send it to them, and nothing back. But I saw he posted, he's like, boy, I sure would like to read the new, model railway news, and I'm like, well, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I sent him a message. I'm like, anything else you want? And he said, well, I want some Monster Energy drinks. I'm like, I don't think you can send it, but I tried and it went through. So
there you go. That's cool.
But yeah, it's a good guy, and maybe that'll change him. Maybe that'll,
Yeah,
hey, look
exactly.
at this. I'll be able to lie. He'd be a great interview.
I know. I'm looking forward to talking to him. I'm trying to talk to more and more people for shorter times, which didn't work out today, and I knew it wouldn't
Yeah.
because.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
But we covered the AP program in depth.
Yes.
That's what we've done today. We've covered the AP program in depth. Now I got good news for you, and I got bad news for you.
All right. What's the good news?
The good news: this will be broadcast. But the bad news is it was so interesting, I'm going to put it as an individual episode.
Oh, okay.
Which means it probably won't be broadcast till like end of October, early November.
Of 2025, right? Okay.
Yeah. The year 2027.
Yes.
So you're only about, it's going to take about half the time it took you to become an MMR.
That's right.
No. And I think I feel confident it'll be like by November of 2019. But this particular episode is timeless because it's talking about how to be an AP guy.
Yes. Well, good. I'll always talk about that. I'm always open if anybody sees me on Facebook or other places and they have a question. That's kind of the one of the things master moderators have to do is help other modelers and help them achieve it. And I know some people, even Spoon and them, said, I want to learn how to do this and that and whatever. I said, I'm the guy. Ask away.
It's like being an AML superfan. Once you become a superfan, you have a responsibility.
You do.
To spread the word of the AML network throughout the world.
You do. The word, that's what they're spreading. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew it was something.
Yeah, they're spreading something. So I'm going to give out the email address. It's Modeler's Life. It's modellerslife@gmail.com. That's modelers with one L like split. Not two L's like Lionel.
Yeah.
Split Rock Mining Company. You get it?
Correct. There we go.
Yeah. Did you
know what I used to do with your email? I always thought it was a Modeler's Life.
Yeah.
And I had so many emails bounce back to me. I'm like, wow, these guys really hate me.
Yeah.
But there's no A in there. It's just Modelers.
It's just Modeler's Life. But I thought, when I started the podcast, I thought that the A would drop and it would become the chic way to say it would be, the chic way to say it would be Modeler's Life.
Correct. Yeah.
But what happened was pretty quickly, Bruce the Moderately Agitated Mailboy came up with AML Nation. So that became the nickname.
Ah.
So the Gmail account should be a Modeler's Life, but it's not. It's just Modeler's Life at gmail.com. That's one L like split, as in Split Rock Mining Company. Not two L's like as in Cadillac, like Tony Cook's 1997 Cadillac Eldorado. That is a sweet ride.
It is. He could build a layout in the trunk of that.
He could, or put in 3 bodies.
That too. We're not giving any hints out. But
No. And we have a website, amodellerslife.com. That is amodellerslife.com. You go there, you'll see a picture of stuff, and there's all our lineup of all our recent episodes, or pictures of all the crew. There's other stuff on there, so just go peruse around that. And now, at the very end, do you know what it is you have to say?
No.
It's happy rails to you.
We're still doing that.
Yeah, so you'll have to know. Well, you must know that because you listen to every episode at least 3 times.
Well, yes, but I keep thinking maybe the ad guys will earn their money. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why Jim Scorsese's not. Maybe you ended it with
come on.
YNCE. There we go.
Yeah, like I sent him an invoice. Like, okay, we mentioned you on show such and such. That's $4,000, and I get nothing.
Yeah. It's like NASCAR. They watch look at Budweiser was on TV for 2 hours.
Yeah. So at the appropriate moment, you have to say happy rails to you.
All right.
Well, can I call you Tom?
Correct. Yes, you can call me Tom.
Well, Tom, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life, and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say,
happy rails to you.
Transportation for AML guests provided by Diamond Limousine. Diamond Limousine, where all of our vehicles are true diamonds in the rough.
It's another Lincoln Homer.